BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether it's your first time or you've been at it for a minute, BetOnline has you covered. With the large selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline has you covered. BetOnline has got you on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here.
This shit feel like ain't settled. Put lines on through my ass. Wake up in the morning, count my blessings. Feel like heaven. This shit feel like ain't settled.
Welcome to the Money Down, the Believe Network, presented by BetOnline.ag. Got a very special guest on here, Boston legend, Donnie Wahlberg, joining us. Appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. And whenever we have a guest on, we like to go back to the beginning. So take me back to Dorchester, Massachusetts. You know, me playing in New England for, 8 years. I got to learn a little bit about, Boston and Dorchester. That's a tough area. So, tell us about young Donnie, how you, the acting a little bit, how you got into singing. What was that like for you?
Trying to hit the dirt.
Yeah, young Donnie grew up in Dorchester in the middle of the 70s. I was born in 69, but I started going to school, Boston Public Schools, right at the time of busing, where really Boston got that reputation of being a racist city was because of those times. The parents didn't want the schools integrated. The judge who decided to integrate the schools and start busing kids to different neighborhoods to go to different schools, the judge, his son ended up being in my class in the first and second grade. The judge was Arthur Garrity. But the parents and people outside were going crazy, but the kids on the buses were like, okay, this is what it is. So my school experience was always very diverse, very mixed. I had exposure to all different people, all different music, all different opinions, personalities. It was, to me, it's the way we should all grow up. Yeah, right. Yeah. But for a time, we didn't grow up that way. And even for a time in other places, as I would travel later, I remember when I got famous, I met some fans like in 1989, I think Cincinnati or somewhere. And they were like, your city is messed up, man. Because when we started busing like 2 years ago, it wasn't bad here. And I was like, damn, but you just started 2 years ago. It's like, it's this thing with Boston where it's like, in some ways it's been ahead of its time. In some ways it was behind the time. But for me, in the generation I grew up with, I think people after it was critical. I think now, Boston has really changed and really evolved. And I think, it used to be a place athletes didn't want to go. And now you see so many people like love the city. They come to the city and they're like, wow, it's not what I expected. And I think it's because of those times the city grew. But for me, not just in those times, I didn't, just grow up and become, I think shaped into the person I am. I think I also became a sports fan too. Like in the 70s, we had the Bruins winning Stanley Cups. I was a little too young for that. The Red Sox were they played in the 75 World Series. They didn't win, but the Celtics won the 76 championship. With Havlicek and JoJo White and those guys. And then Larry Bird came around with Parrish, McHale, Maxwell, and Tiny Archibald in 81. And it was never the same. Boston was never the same. And but for a time, we only had the Celtics. We only had them. Everybody else lost. Just lose. They lost in a way that ripped our hearts out. Like
made up for it.
Oh,
for sure.
James, you weren't there for the helmet catch that David Tyree.
Yep.
He expected that every single time something like that to happen. That was the only thing that really hurt about that was when it happened, right? Because we were hoping we're going to go 19-0, but we got spoiled for a while and forgot that's how it used to always go for teams from Boston. The Red Sox, and Bill Buckner and the Mets and all this stuff. And, Aaron Boone hit the home run against Tim Wakefield. Like, it was always a disaster. And but the Patriots really changed that. But not to get into sports too quickly and just talking about growing up, like you can't grow up in Boston without sports being a big part of your life. It's just, as I said, you're asking me what it's like growing up, and I immediately started getting into sports and stuff. Like, it's just, even if you don't care about sports, just by nature, if you grow up in Boston, you're going to get into it. You're going to be part of it. You're going to get swept up in it. And for many, many years, it was like you're getting the people who would avoid it were the smart ones. The people would be like, this is the year the Red Sox are going to do it. This is the year the Patriots are going to do it. And nobody would ever do it, And people would be skeptical and stay out of it. I remember all my friends laughed at me because I thought the Patriots could beat the Bears in the Super Bowl in '86. I was like, no, we're going to win, man. We're going to win. And they were laughing. And it was like 30-0 at halftime. And they were all calling me laughing. And I'm like,
they were the truth back then, man.
It's funny. I gotta ask you, because I can tell how passionate you are about it. But I want to, if I got the years right, you were probably 12, 13 when Larry got to the Celtics. Did you say like 81? Is that correct?
Yeah. I think
what was that?
I think he got drafted, though, like in 80, like Red Auerbach did that weird loophole.
Yeah.
Where back then you could draft a player before they even came out.
I didn't know that.
They do that in like hockey, don't they?
In hockey or baseball sometimes, right?
I'm not even sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. But Red found this loophole and he drafted Larry like a year before. So when I think when Larry came out, I think he was drafted like the year before Magic. Instead of being drafted at the same time, you're like, well, why weren't they in the same draft class? Because they pre-drafted him. It's some weird loophole. I don't remember how it worked. And I should remember because A, I was a fan. B, I've had this conversation before. C, I narrated the 30 for 30. But I'm forgetting.
And that
I was around
too.
Probably 12 years old. Yeah, 12 years old.
What was that like for you? That time, those battles between the Celtics and the Lakers, and just like getting the opportunity to watch that, because I think the Sixers were big that around that time too. Like, because we're in a different time of basketball. And again, not to jump too much into sports, but just to have somebody that's been around during that time. Like, what was that like for you growing up?
It was incredible. It was incredible because just to have a team that was always around it, we got spoiled in New England really because of the Patriots, because for 20 years they were around it, right? So you were always in the conversation, but until that time, it was the Celtics were around it in the 80s, and that was it. Like, nobody else was around it that frequently. We'd have teams come and go, but to have an MVP, I guess to say it like this, like, we grew up in the city. We were always in the shadow of New York. When the Celtics and Lakers became rivals, Hollywood, LA, everything was bigger than Boston. To us, we were like the stepbrothers, right? And New York was like the big city, and all we could do was look up to New York, and we didn't really have that identity. And I think the Celtics in the 80s sort of gave that identity. And as much as we were rivals with the Lakers, we were really just as heated, if not more, with the Sixers and Philly. You pointed it out, right? So, but the interesting thing was, though, even though those rivalries, like, they had fights, like Dr. J and Bird had a fight. Bird in the face, right? Like, these were real rivalries. There was a respect that was different with the Celtics and Sixers. I think there was a mutual respect, as much as the teams kind of hated each other. I think they really respected each other, because I think they both felt that younger brother complex from New York and the Lakers, right? And the Yankees and just those cities overall were just so giant. And I think there was this thing where we both felt like we were just fighting each other to try to get a chance to fight the big city, right? Yeah. And people don't remember, but the famous chant in Boston, for the NBA Finals was always "Beat LA," and a lot of people remember that started with the Celtics. So in '81, this is my memory. My memory can be really good sometimes. '81, the Celtics were down 3-1 to Philly in the conference finals, in the Eastern Finals. And they came back. They won Game 5 at home, won Game 6 in Philly. Cedric Maxwell had a fight with a fan and didn't even get thrown out of the game. But right? Ron Artest got suspended for 10 years. Maxwell Yeah. Maxwell didn't even get a technical. But the Celtics came back and won that series in '81. They went to the finals. They beat Houston. And when they had Moses Malone, which was incredible. But the next year it happened again. Philly went up 3-1. Celtics won Game 5 at home. They won Game 6 in Philly. We came back to Boston, and everyone thought they would win again and go play the Lakers. And Philly killed the Celtics in Game 7. And the whole crowd, like halfway through the fourth quarter, started chanting "Beat LA" as a way to support Philly and say, "Go beat the Lakers because we hate them too." Like it was this respect that the city showed for the Sixers that to this day I love it. Like if you were around in that time, like if you go to a Celtics Laker game now in Boston, they're going to start going "Beat LA, beat LA." Other cities do it too now, but it really started with the fans in Boston chanting to the Sixers fans to tell them to go beat LA, which was really incredible. Like, it's just one of those things when you're, that makes you proud to be a fan, in your city, when your city can like do that, like when they can be like, damn, and it teaches you how to deal with tough times. Like we lost, right? Instead of crying, I was like, damn, okay, now I'm going to go root for Philly to beat LA. Right? It helped me heal that they did that. Yeah, and I would need that healing power a few times in my life and other parts.
Now, speaking of that, with sports kind of surrounding you being a big part of your life, what led you? Because I saw you started getting into acting in high school. What led you down that path versus trying to get on a basketball court or some other sport?
Oh man, I was probably too short for any sport. I can't even say that to you. I can't even say that to you because I'm not tall. I know I'm the same height. I went to Boston Public Schools, and for whatever reason, they have this thing in the schools was called the magnet system. So if you went to public school A, you kind of had first dibs to go to elementary school A. You had first dibs to go to elementary school B, because they wanted to kind of keep the groups of kids from all these different parts of the city sort of together, right? I don't know. I guess that's why they did it, but I went to the William Monroe Trotter School for first grade to fifth grade. And, there wasn't really any sports teams there. And then I went to the Phyllis Wheatley Middle School, and we didn't have really, there was like, I think a basketball team. That was it. And then my high school was Copley High, which is now called Snowden High School. But that school was on the corner of Newbury Street and Dartmouth Street. And if you know Boston, like nobody knows there's a school there. It's a brownstone, but it was a Boston Public High School. And like Gucci's over there and Louis Vuitton stores over there. And 300 kids come pouring out of this school every day into the streets, like on Newbury Street. It was wild. But our school was so small. It was like a college. Like we would go to the YWCA for gym class. We would go to a church around the corner for theater class. We would go to like Emerson College for computer class. So it was really cool, but the school was so small, we didn't really have competitive teams in anything. So I could have. I played baseball a little bit in high school. I played on the soccer team for like 5 games. But I was into music, and in that high school, one of the cool things was they were trying out this thing where they were going to have new courses and stuff, and they were sort of using our school as a testing ground to do this sort of international studies. And they would you got Chinese class, all these different languages. So I ended up taking Chinese for a while. I took theater class, chess class. Like, you could do all these different things that seemed more college type stuff. So I started taking theater my freshman year, and I had also grown up being a huge fan of New Edition. And of course, I was a huge hip hop fan of all types of music, and was around all types of music my whole life. And so I would perform in 8th grade, 9th grade. I would perform at high school dances, and I would perform at parties, and I would get in rap battles, and I would do all this different stuff. And but I was also a huge fan of New Edition. And when freshman year of high school ended, I met the guy who discovered New Edition, a guy named Maurice Starr, and he was looking to start another band. And I was the founding member of the band with him. I recruited the guys and made this band, New Kids on the Block. So my whole high school experience, instead of doing sports, I was just being a sports fan. But I was in theater class in school, doing plays, on Thursday night or Tuesday night, and doing plays during the school week with the other students. And when I would get out of school, I would go to work, and then I would go to rehearsal with the New Kids. And then on the weekends, we would play wherever we could get a show. We would play in nightclubs that we were too young to be in. We would play at birthday parties, bar mitzvahs. We played in prisons. We played anywhere we could get a show. And we opened for everyone you could think of, from the Four Top, cool. Lisa to
that's cool.
Jermaine Stewart. Yeah, we did whatever we could do, just hustling to make it my whole high school years. It was literally sort of spent I would assume a high school athlete would spend it, trying to stay right in school, but thinking about, going to the studio or doing my show or practicing some dance routines or thinking about whatever to get me through the day. And then just rushing to get to rehearsals or what would be the equivalent of practice, right? Every day, whether it was singing practice, dancing practice, if we had a show coming up that Friday at a nightclub, we would just practice every day to be as tight as we could be for that one event.
Donnie, I want to ask you, I want to go a little bit back, right? In high school, 8 siblings, man. How was that, right? I'm sure all you guys got different personalities. It's a lot going on in the household, trying to deal with this person, that one. How was that for you? And then ultra successful family, man. How was that just growing up in that setting and everybody just gelling together?
It was interesting because we were together when we were really little, and then, we had a lot of separation as we got older, different. We had a good family, great parents, who worked their asses off, to keep things afloat, to keep the lights on, to keep food on our table. But my dad was a union guy. So I remember he was on strike from his truck driving job, got a school bus driver's license, started to become a school bus driver in the fall, and then the school bus drivers went on strike. So he didn't work for 6 months. We had no heat in the house, in Boston. And
that's wild.
It's eating bread and mayonnaise sandwiches, and that's one thing about Boston that I loved, and going to school the way we did. It's kids from all over the city, all different races, all different religions, right? Everybody, we all went to school together, and we all had one thing in common. We were all poor, right? So it just kind of connected us, right? In a way that we may not have understood had we not, been around each other, but we all had this struggle in common. But in the house, my parents split up in 1981, and my role in the family was just to become the rah-rah guy. I was all right, I was the 8th of 9 kids, but I was like, all right, here's what we're doing for Christmas. Everyone's going to mom's house at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve. We're going to dad's house at 10 o'clock on Christmas morning. Don't be late. Da, da, da. And my siblings are all like grown. And I'm like, no, you're going to be on top. Yeah. And in those hard times, like with my family, like, my parents like breaking up and stuff, it was rough. And there was, like I said, there was a lot of drugs and alcohol in the family, a lot of chaos at times. But my thing just became trying to bring the family together and just find happiness in the chaos. And it served me, just like, my upbringing in school served me and taught me, so much. My upbringing and my family did the same, because to this day, that's what I do. Like, I get my band together every year, and I bring 15,000 fans to an arena every night. And we go around the country and play concerts, and we bring people who are struggling and have lives and have issues, who are trying to pay the bills or going through divorce or losing parents or whatever they're dealing with. We all get together every night with my band, and we all feel good in the worst of times. And I've never stopped being that kid, I guess, in many ways. And it wasn't always easy, but it serves me, every single day. The struggle really serves me and gives me purpose, I think.
That's what's up.
Super. That's super dope.
It's funny. We had Michael Bivins on. You brought up Newark. We had him on not too long ago. I didn't know they inspired you guys. That's pretty dope.
Oh,
you guys right around the same area.
I didn't know Mike did the podcast, but I'll tell you what. If Mike was there first, I'm usually not far behind. Like, he's he's my guy, and New Edition and Mike, they really paved the way, for us in every way. We looked up to them so much. And when I was in junior high school, middle school, the Phyllis Wheatley Middle School, that school, we used to cut through a hole in the fence in the schoolyard and go down to Dudley Station, and we would sneak out in the morning and go get lemon heads and Alexander the Great and candy, right? So just so we would have some snacks during school. And when we would go down to the store, the Orchard Park projects were right there. That's where New Edition lived. They all grew up there. And, that was the time they were just becoming famous. And I would just look over at the projects and just be like, damn, them guys lived there. Those guys live there. They're famous. They're from right here. And I go to school right where they live. And you would hear stories in school oh, I met Ricky Bell, or, I met Bobby Brown. We would hear about New Edition and hear them on the radio. And, as I said, I was into rapping and breakdancing and stuff. But I was into music, and to know that somebody from our town could make it, and young kids, it wasn't it wasn't like they were 40-year-old men. They were kids, just a year or two older than me. They gave every kid in the city permission to dream. We didn't have a lot of famous athletes coming out of Boston. We had Patrick Ewing, was from Cambridge. He played at Cambridge, Ringe and Latin, and you heard about him. You were like, oh my God, Patrick Ewing's going to go to the NBA one day. It was one guy, and it was so rare you knew about it. But New Edition, it was different, right? Because they were kids doing something that, who had done that before? The Jackson 5 and the Osmonds, right? And who else had ever done it in the history of the world? And from just down the street. And so for me, it made anything seem possible to me. And it gave me and all my friends really permission to dream, right? Because to that point, if you said, I'm going to be a famous singer like New Edition one day, or before New Edition, if you said that I'm going to grow up and be a singer, you get beat down. If I didn't get beat down in the neighborhood, I would get beat down by my older brothers. What are you, stupid? You can sing while you clean up my room. So yeah. So New Edition became that at a very early age, and they've been that really to this day. They still mean that much to me and my bandmates. Like we love those guys, and we become friends with them over the years. And Mike is someone I talk to. We pick each other's brain a lot and talk about different things.
Man, yeah.
He's that guy. He's still that guy. And it means a lot to have the relationship we have with them. We got to perform on the American Music Awards with them a few years ago, and it's the highlight of our career. Like everyone in my band will say that, and we all are looking towards somehow touring together sometime in the future. I think it would be a very, very special thing.
That'd be super dope.
That'd be super dope. We asked Mike something similar. So I saw you guys as your group. You guys hit number one when you had "Please Don't Go, Girl."
Yeah.
What was that moment like? Walking through high school, or you got the girls around, like you feeling like you're on top of the world.
Hey. Got a hit.
What was that?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because the first time our songs came on the radio, so we had an album out that in 1986 that sold like 4 copies. From each of our parents, right? and so by the time "Please Don't Go, Girl" came around in I think it was 88. By then, I think I was out of school. I didn't graduate. I just stopped going. I was like, "Oh, we're going to be famous. Don't worry, I got this." But when our record first started playing, when I was in school, only some people would hear it. Some of the kids would hear it on the radio. Only one radio station was playing it in Boston, and it was cool, but it wasn't catching fire, right? So we were kind of local famous, but only kind of, but when we started to become successful, it took a lot of years. So I met Maurice Starr, as I said, it was 1984, the summer of 84, I met him.
Okay.
And I was the only member of the band for like a year. My brother Mark was in the band for like 3 months, but he can't sing. Did you see Boogie Nights? That's how he really sings. He wasn't acting. That was real.
Oh man,
he can't sing a lick. So
hilarious.
He didn't want to do it, so it was just me for a while. Then I recruited my friends that I knew from school and around the neighborhood and stuff, and it had been like 4 years of working at this before "Please Don't Go, Girl" started to catch fire. And when it did, it just there really wasn't even time to enjoy it, because it was like, let's get to work. Yep. Right? It was like, I don't know what to compare it to in a sports analogy, maybe like getting drafted and you're like, all right, I'm drafted. And it's like, oh shit, I gotta go. I gotta go work. Now I gotta make a career out of this, right? It's like, oh, we're going on tour. Okay, great. Like we didn't get to like drive around the neighborhood in our car or on a moped and be like, hey, you want to ride? Come on, do that. We just got to work, and it seemed like it just didn't slow down for 5 years, maybe. It just started to take off, and from "Please Don't Go, Girl," another song came out and another song and went number one. And then we went to another tour, and then we went from playing, as I said, any show we could get. And we did shows in the neighborhoods, like in Boston and Roxbury, for no people. We would do these shows on the Miller concert series, the summer concert series, and we'd be on a truck would come in with a big box on the back, and it would lower down, and there was a stage. There'd be no people there. You're 14 and it says Miller Beer on the stage. But suddenly we went from that to we went to play in Boston Garden and then for 2 tours, and by the time that tour ended, we went to play the old Patriots Stadium, Sullivan Stadium, Foxborough Stadium, and then we went back to arenas, and then we went to theaters, and then it was kind of fading down, and we took a while off and came back together when we were grown up, and we've been just going at it ever since. But it's hard to enjoy it when you're in it. You enjoy the moments, right? It's like everything is like we win an award at the American Music Awards. We're like high-fiving and hugging, and we're celebrating, and we go to the after party, and then it's like, all right, we got to get on a plane and go to Japan and do 20 shows in 18 days. Let's go. It's got to be like being an athlete, right? It's like you win the game, you win the championship, and it's like you want to celebrate. And if you're lucky, you get a week with your family, and you got to get in the gym, right? You got to get back to it. And it's just because you can fall off that quick. And that's all anyone ever told us is like, your band ain't going to last. This type of band doesn't last. It's going to fade. You got 3 years. You better get all you can while you can. And we hated hearing that. And we always tried to prove that wrong. And, all these years later, I guess we proved it wrong, but it does creep in on you. The doubt can creep in, right? So we keep working really hard to not let the doubt get the best of us, right? So we can, because if we're not prepared, the doubt will come and the failure can show up. But if we keep working hard and being prepared for the next opportunity, then we just figure we'll last. And over time we have.
Donnie, can I ask you, and you talked about it, from performing in front of 4 people to packing out arenas, same way in sports. How was it being a leader and keeping the guys head in the same space and on the right track to continue to grow success? Because a lot of people get success, and then you can kind of see maybe 1 or 2 people start to get complacent or satisfied and kind of fall off. But how are you able to keep the guys together as far as let's keep going so we can be successful for more than 3 years, like people were telling us?
Yeah, I think the best way to explain it or compare it is in some ways, it's a little different than sports only because we were the guys. We were always all for one and one for all. We're we're not replacing somebody if their voice changes. We ain't doing none of that. We're going to be the guys. And, we all, success and life in general can change you. It can make you start to grow in different directions. And we did. Our first tour was 1 tour bus. Everybody was united. And by the end of that tour, we went on our next tour. We had 5 tour buses.
Everybody needs their space.
Yeah, everyone needed their space. And in some ways, it was in some ways, I think we needed that space. And we're right to take that space. But at the same time, we're at the age where we don't really know yet. It's kind of like, why does he want his own bus? Well, I'm getting mine, and it's looking back, we needed that space, right? Because we were all evolving and changing and kind of becoming, adults. We're all except for the young guy, Joey, we were all 18, 19, 20. That's when you go live in a dorm. That's when you go, do college life and stuff. And we were in a dorm. And then we wanted our own dorms, but I think to this day, I think what we try to do is, or what I try to do as I'd say, you could say I'm the leader of the band. Certainly, I don't think anyone would argue with it, but I know that there are times that everyone has to lead in the band, and it's one of the things that. I think why I gravitate towards Coach Belichick and the Patriots so much is there's, my thing is I might be the leader of the group, right? But that oftentimes might mean I need to shut up and step to the back and let the other guy step up and get all the shine right now. And now this guy's got to get his light, right? And I got to let this guy get his flowers here. And everybody has to have their moment. And then I got to know try to lead us to moments where each guy can succeed, right? And not put a guy in position to fail. It's like, if I know this guy does not do this well, if he says, hey man, I'm really been working on it, let me get a shot, I'll try to come up with a way to insulate it, but still use it to surprise the audience. Like, they didn't expect him to do that. But at the same time, I'm generally going to be like, all right, this guy is really good at this, but this isn't what he's the best at. So let me make sure we really create a moment around what his strength is. And, it's like, I think I wrote this to the guys, like when we were reuniting in 2008 after breaking up for a little while. It was like, we were going to do the Today Show, our first big performance in like 13 years. And it was really big news. And I just wrote to the guys. I was like, listen, you don't have to be better than anyone. Just be the best you that you could be. Just do what you do the best you can do it. I'm not going to sing as good as Jordan Knight and Joey McIntyre, right? I'm just not going to do it. It's not my strength. But I do other things really good, and I have to do those as great as I could do them on any given night. And each guy has to just do what their strength is. And we try to build around those strengths. And I think it's like, it's like when Bill Belichick says, just do your job. It's like, yeah, we don't have to do anything outside of what we do. We know who we are as a band. We know what our strengths and weaknesses are. We know our fans intimately. We know how, what they expect from us. And we know to not be complacent and to keep trying to surprise them, but give them what they want. They want the nostalgia. They want certain feelings and emotions, but let's try to always elevate and have surprises and have a few trick plays that they weren't expecting. But yeah, it's really that. I remember I spoke to Brad Stevens a few years ago, I think when like Kyrie and Gordon Hayward and everybody were on the Celtics. And he just called me one time, and I don't want to speak out of school because I don't like passing on conversations, but he was like, what do you guys do? Like, how do you just all get along? And I was like, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just know each other's strengths and we know each other's roles, and we just respect that no matter what. And if something doesn't make sense to somebody, we'll talk about it. And if we have a disagreement or we get tired of each other after 60 nights on the road, it's going to happen. There's going to be things, but as long as we just show up and play to each of our strengths and give everyone a chance to have their moments, not just, my dog's barking at me, not just to have the moment, but because they've earned a moment, right? It's that thing. Everyone has a value on our team. One guy might have slowed down with the dancing and doesn't like to sing, and just, it is what it is. But, he's got a special ingredient that at some point is going to make a difference in our success or failure. And for me, it's about finding that moment and creating that opportunity and making sure he's in a position to succeed and to have that moment. Because like I said, those moments are the magic, right? It's like when you get I guess you could say like a special teams guy or an offensive lineman catches a touchdown pass, right? It's so unexpected. It's like, but those moments you never forget. And your fans never forget if it's a sports team, and our fans never forget as a band.
That sounds like something that should go on like a sports autobiography or something.
Sports fans, man. Everyone in my band, like we've been on stage with TV screens under the stage. We'll give us signals like when the Celtics are in the finals, when the Bruins are in the Stanley Cup. Like, we literally have people sending us, like, our security guy will walk by and be like, we're up four. Like, on stage in front of 20,000 people. And now our fans know how much of a Celtics fans we are. We were at an event when the Celtics came back from 3-0 down to Miami a few years ago. It was game 6. They were in Miami. We had the fans were just we stopped the show and the fans were like, "You're up one." They know we love our team so much.
Hey, you know what? I'm a big fan of the Saw movies and all that stuff. So we're going to get into that eventually. But I do have a question in terms of your journey. You know, what got you pulled into, you know, acting, you know, in movies? Did you spend some time in Broadway? Like, what was your path like to get into, you know, professional acting?
Well, as I had said, in high school, I was very fortunate to go to Copley High, which had a theater program. So there was a guy in school, Mark Boyer. He was just the coolest guy. And he took theater class, and I was like, "Man, you taking theater class?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You
know something." Yeah.
He was a year older than me. He was a sophomore. I was like, "All right, well, if he could do it, I'm going to go do it." Not because I thought I could do it, but I was like, he's like the coolest guy in the school. If he's doing theater.
Ladies.
And me, him, and one other guy were like the only guys in the class. So we got to do all these plays. And as I said, I was in New Kids outside of high school. And, you know, it just kind of was something I was doing. And then when New Kids on the Block started to become successful, I got a lot of people approaching me to act and to do plays or movies or TV shows or whatever. But I was just so busy, I never really had time. And I also started producing records, and I produced my brother Mark's music. So kind of as a way to help him have a life and a career and keep him out of the streets, but also as a way to prove myself. Because, you know, we were discovered by our producer. So people thought, you know, we didn't really have any talent. And I said, well, I'll show them. I'm gonna produce records and make my own hit records. And one of those records was Good Vibrations by my brother Mark, which is, you know, was a massive hit record and still a hit record to today. And, you know, so he started doing music and I was doing music, and I was always busy doing music, and he started to be less busy doing music. And suddenly all the movie roles that were going to me started going to him. And he started doing great, but it was always something I wanted to do as well. It was like, you know, and you could say like I led the way for the two of us in music, and he led the way in acting. But it was something that was always in me from my early days. I mean, I did a play in the first grade and the second grade. I was always doing plays and stuff in school, but I didn't really think it was something I could really do until I started getting into music and seeing like, you know, New Edition and examples of fame right in front of me. And I was like, oh, maybe I could become a singer. And then when I started to become a successful singer, I was like, well, maybe I can become an actor. And maybe it is real. You know, that it's really, you know, and I don't want to oversimplify things because, you know, you could say like, well, if you dream it, if you see it, like you could have it, you can. You just got to work your ass off to get it, you know, and that's the part that a lot of us don't know about, right? Is like a hard work. And so really from the time I met Maurice Starr and became the first member of New Kids, I never stopped working. So I was 14 years old when I met him, and I never slowed down. Probably haven't slowed down yet. You know, it's just because I love what I do, and I don't want, when you grow up with nothing and you grow up with a lot of older brothers, you just kind of walk around expecting whatever you get to be taken away from you, right? You never get it in the first place. And I think it's what drives me now is sort of this fear that, you know, I think I think a lot of athletes have that too. It's like, you know,
back to that. It's like,
going back. Don't want to go back.
Everyone was talking about him and Mahomes this weekend, and that guy just didn't want to lose, man. It's like he got 7 Super Bowls. I guarantee you he's pissed he don't have all 10 that he made it to, and he's probably pissed he didn't make it to 3 other ones besides that. It's like, and I'm not comparing New Kids on the Block to Tom Brady or the Patriots. but I do understand that mindset of like, you know, just people not believing and just but believing in yourself and wanting to keep working and working and working to get where you're trying to go, but then to not rest once you get there, and then to not let somebody come along and take it away or sabotage ourselves and take it away from ourselves, because we could do that too very easily.
Most definitely. I got to ask you about Sixth Sense, movie you played in. Or Soj got something.
I got something.
Bruce Willis, yeah.
Getting prepared for that role, having to lose 40 pounds. Like, how much time does it take for that to happen? How much time does it take you to get into character? Because I know for some people it take quite some time. You got to go to a dark place. And I think I read that you isolated yourself from your family during that time too. So can you walk us through what that is?
Oh, wow.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, my mindset was like, I got offered the movie and I didn't audition. Like I had to audition for every part I ever got, but for some reason I was 30 years old or 29 years old, and this director offered me a part that he wrote for a 15-year-old kid. And maybe 18, maybe the kid was supposed to be 18, but I was like, well, shit, I'm not that. And he's supposed to be like, look like he's on drugs and this and that. And I was like walking around, I was 180. I was in the gym every day. And this guy gave me the job, and I kept saying like, man, I got to become something else. I have to become this character, or someone's going to wake up and realize they got the wrong guy. I said, so I have to do everything in my power to become the right guy. And they gave me the job, and the director, no pun intended, he had a sixth sense about me. He was like, I want this guy in the movie. And we did a rehearsal, and I talked to Bruce Willis, and I was like, hey man, the character was written like in goth clothing and like tattoos. And I was like, hey, this guy is coming to end his suffering. Like he sees dead people like the little kid in the movie. Mm-hmm. You were his psychiatrist and you didn't help him. And now he's coming for revenge, which motivates Bruce to take care of the other kid the whole movie. But I was like, I don't think this guy would be wearing these clothes. I think he would be like, strip them down. I said, so I want to be standing there naked. And he was like, wow, that's a great idea. And he said, let's tell the director. So I told the director, he was like, great idea. So I didn't really think that one through, though. I didn't think that one through. This going to be on record. I didn't think it all the way through.
Hey,
I was so like locked in. I'm like, I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna be naked. And I was like, I went home. I was like, damn, dude, you're gonna be all the way naked. It might be cold on set. It might be cold. You better think this one over. So I went home and started to. I was so afraid that they were gonna change their mind and give this part to someone else, that I said, I'm going to be naked and I got to look like I've been suffering my whole life. And I just took away everything that was comfortable to me. I left my house. I stayed in my friend's apartment in New York. I didn't bring any money, credit cards. I would fast for a couple days at a time. It's like now when I intermittent fast, people are like, damn, how do you just do 16 hours? You don't even think about it. I'm like, okay. I was doing 3 days at a time for
it's nothing.
Yeah, this is nothing now. 72-hour water fast. Let's go. So I was starving myself and suffering, and I really had to become this character, like to play this thing. And again, it's like that was my training camp for that movie. That was my mini camp, my OTAs, my everything. Like I did it all. I was like, I got to do all of it and more. And I had like 31 days from the time we did that table read till I was shooting. So in 31 days, I think I lost like 42 pounds. And I'm like doing cardio, and I'm on the treadmill for like 3 hours a day without eating for like 2 days. And I'd be on there like getting dizzy, and I'd be like, oh, I wonder why I'm dizzy. Nothing was registering to me. It's like, you're dizzy because you haven't had a calorie, man. Like, what are you doing?
When you got back to eating, what was the first meal?
Oh man. With just one side note, because I do want to answer that. When I got there, they told me that I got to the movie and the director walked by me the day before I was going to film. And he was like, I said, "Hey man," he goes, "Oh, hey." And he kept walking. I was like, and he turned around and he said, "Donnie?" And I was like, he was like, "Dude, I didn't recognize you." Like, I didn't realize how much I had changed physically. Like, I was the last one to know. Like my friend was like, the day before I was filming, he was like, "Dude, everyone does that." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You'd be walking in New York and so would go, 'Hey, Donnie,' and give you a hug. And then they look at me and go, 'Yo, what happened?' Like I was on drugs. They didn't know I was getting like, what's wrong with him?" But they told me that day, they were like, the movie, they want a PG-13 rating, so you can't be naked. And I was like, "Hey, I just lost half of my like, so I asked them if I could wear underwear, tighty whities, and just make them look like I've been in them for 3 months and never changed. And they were like, "All right, we could do that." And then afterwards, I was like, "Thank God." It might not look right. I used to tell people,
oh man,
I used to say as a joke when they would talk about my brother Mark at the end of Boogie Nights, I would say, "Yeah, I was his body double." And then when I was going to do the Sixth Sense, I was like, now everybody's going to know it ain't true. But, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. It's actually. But as far as the food, a crazy story. When we finished filming, I didn't know I was finished filming, and they called me back to set. And I walked onto the set, and the whole crew was standing there. And Bruce Willis stood up on a apple box, and he said he made this speech about me. And I was there for one day. I filmed everything in one day, and he did this speech about how much it meant to him and to everybody that I was in one scene in the movie, and that I did that much sacrifice and that much work for it, and that it's what, it's things like that are going to make this movie special. And like everybody started clapping, and Bruce came down and gave me this big hug. And I'm sitting there like crying, like I didn't expect that. And while we were standing there talking, he said, "Listen, I've done this before, what you did. I've lost weight for a movie. You have to take it really slow. You got it. You can't eat fast." And I was like, "Okay." Oh, and I'm like, I already got my friends going. I wanted a Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich. I wanted a box of honeycomb cereal. And we filmed in Philadelphia, so I wanted a Philly cheesesteak. So I already had the list ready to go eat. And Bruce was like, "Yeah, don't eat, man. You got to start small, like have soup and salads." He says, because what happened is you starved yourself and your stomach shrunk. And if you eat too much too fast, you can get really sick. And I didn't listen. I didn't listen. I went back to the hotel. I had a Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich, a double cheeseburger. I had a Philly cheesesteak. I had a box of honeycomb cereal. And my stomach just exploded. It was crazy. And then I was like, "What? I better not do that again." But then I couldn't. I went home and I had like everything, every food I missed out on. I was eating everything. And every time I did it, my stomach would, look like 5 months pregnant. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on here?" I had a nice sit back. I was in shape. And, but yeah, I was down to 139 pounds from 180. So my body wasn't ready for it. And it took me a long time to get right after that. Like I was messed up in the head for a while. Like I had to learn nutrition the right way. I had to learn training the right way, how much calories were important. Like I was like, okay, well, I'm shredded. Of course, I'm 139 pounds. I'm emaciated. But in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm shredded. I'm just going to ease my way back up to around 150 and stay there. And I'm not meant to be 150. That's not, my frame is not meant for that. And I just stayed there for a while, and it was very unhealthy. And it took me a long time to get right. And fortunately, I had friends who were smart and were kind of looking at me like, damn, dude, you did that movie a year ago and you're still walking around at 152 pounds. Like, you got to calorie up, man. Like, we'll help you get your food right and we'll help you stay in shape and keep your 6-pack and all that. Like, don't worry, we got you. And, not long after that, I was back to, my fighting weight and looking better than ever. But it took a toll on me. That movie took a big toll on me. Realize it. As I said, I was the last to realize I was skinny and didn't look healthy. And I was last to realize I didn't look healthy a year later. I was like walking around crazy from not dieting with help, not doing, just like self-training myself and self-dieting myself in totally improper ways. And it was really unhealthy. And fortunately, like I said, I got that.
So I want to go back, right? I'm a huge horror movie fanatic.
It sounds like everyone is.
Right?
Yeah.
So 2007, my mom drops me off to the movie theater to see this movie called Dead Silence, man.
Wow.
And right, so Dead Silence, right? So after I watched this creepy ass movie with this ventriloquist that I never know anything about, I literally tell you, Donnie, I slept with my mom in her bed in 7th grade for like a month off of this movie because I was just terrified that I was gonna one day come home and this Billy doll was gonna be at my front doorstep and I was gonna be in trouble. You play in that movie, and when I found out, I was like, that is so cool. So I gotta ask you, bro, just from somebody that's terrified to that movie, I still won't watch it to this day. I'll watch it, but it's little parts where, when y'all shoot the dolls and stuff like that, and she's like
Crazy.
floating like that still give me chills to this day, right? So how was that experience shooting that movie for you? And I just want to hear a story from it. Like, it's just cool to be talking to somebody.
It was great. What happened, going back to the Saw reference as well, I got offered Saw 2, and I had never seen Saw 1. So my friend was over my house, and my agent called me and was like, hey, they want you to play the lead guy in Saw 2. And I was like, oh, all right. And my friend was like, oh, Saw 1 is crazy. Did you see it? I was wild, bro. The whole series. He said, yo, you got to do this. And he was like, you got to do that movie. And I was like, all right. So we watched Saw 1. I was like, wow, that was crazy. But I still wasn't sure. But a funny story, I had a TV show coming out on NBC called NY70. It was like the French Connection reshot in the 2000s. And it looked like it was going to be an Emmy-winning show. It was incredible. I had a movie coming out at the Sundance Film Festival. I had a movie coming out called Annapolis with Tyrese and James Franco. And I was like, I got a big movie coming out. I got a Sundance movie coming out. I got this cool TV show coming out. I was like, I got this all planned out. I'm going to do Saw 2, and I'm going to have a Halloween popcorn movie that's going to be big at the box office come out. And I'm going to just change the whole game for me. Like, this is going to be my year. Cut to the TV show got canceled. It never was on the air. The Sundance movie never got sold. And the other movie wasn't successful. So all I had, and it got delayed, the Annapolis movie, all I had was Saw 2. And thank God, because it was great. It was very successful. It was very fun. Really crazy to film that. And but what was really cool is the guy who plays Jigsaw is Tobin Bell. And man, he was so into it. Like, I got there to like a week before his filming, and we had a meeting, and he was like, I don't, he talks just like the movie.
That's fire.
Yeah. You want to play a game? he's like, Donnie, do you want to discuss this scene? Like, yeah, if you don't give me a portrait device, I'll discuss the scene.
That's crazy.
So we talk about the scenes, and we rewrote all our scenes together, and it was really incredible. And what was cool is the guy who created the Saw franchise is James Wan. And so James really loved what I did in Saw 2, And then he, of course, asked me to come back for Saw 3 and Saw 4. But immediately after filming Saw 2, he was directing A Dead Silence. So he was so happy with how Saw 2 went, and we became, we got along so well. He was like, do you want to do my next horror movie? And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And it was so much fun. Saw 2 was fun in the craziness of it all. It was just crazy. And the cast that was locked in the house, they were so funny, man. I would days when they were filming and just listen to them yelling at each other and screaming and how crazy they all were. But they were really fun. And then Dead Silence was creepy, man. That's
such a creepy movie.
That scares me more than the Saw movies. Like the puppet.
Really?
On the puppet thing, man. The puppets freak me out.
The old lady who played Mary Shaw, she killed it, bro.
Puppets and clowns, man. I don't want nothing to do with puppets.
Yeah, no clowns. I don't mess with clowns either.
Killed it.
No clowns, no puppets. And
but that Jigsaw character gave me nightmares, dog. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
really good.
Every single one of them Saw movies.
In the scene in the attic when we go and all the puppets are starting to come alive and stuff. The Jigsaw puppet, the little Billy puppet's in the attic.
Yeah, it's so cool now hearing you talk about it. Now, like the reference, right? When we say like Easter eggs in movies and stuff like that, like now I see because the director, he had the Jigsaw in there because it was in there. So it's just cool.
Yeah, the director, he loves these puppets, right? It's a big thing for him, and he thinks they're scary. But so I kept telling him, I was like, listen, I said, my character can't be scared of this puppet. And he was like, yeah, man, but you can't make a mockery out of the puppet. I was like, no, I don't want to make a mockery. I said, but everyone can't be scared of this puppet in the movie. I said, I want my character to just not care. And just, so like when I'm coming out the door, like bang his head off the door and I'm like, oops, and I act all like Columbo.
In the
like
hotel.
I'm making jokes with the puppet and I'm like making him talk and making like joking with it.
Yeah.
I kept saying to the director, I was like, listen, the audience knows how scary this puppet is, but my character doesn't. So every time I mess with the puppet, the audience is going to be like, oh, he's going to get it. And it did. I got it. In the end,
You did.
I was like, I said, just trust me on this. I said, I don't want to disrespect your movie at all. I really think the audience is going to get some laughs out of my character, but then they're going to know like,
yeah,
he's banging the puppet off a wall. I'm like making jokes out of the puppet, like just totally not taking it serious at all. And everyone in the theater is watching, knowing like, yo, that puppet is gonna get you.
It's like the hotel scenes, like that with the red light and all that stuff. You banging the doll, like talking with it. So it all makes sense now. But that's so dope. Just knowing like the movie that scared me for a long ass time. Getting to just hear the backstory behind it is super.
I got really lucky in that period again. And sometimes like we can act like we have all the answers in our careers. Sometimes you got to be real lucky too, right? Like I thought I had the whole plan, TV show, movie, and then Saw is going to be just the cherry on top. And Saw became the whole meal, right? Because everything else went out the window. And what ended up happening is like, I remember I used to go to all the Celtics games all the time. And, all the older people would know me and, hey, Donnie. But after the Saw 2 came out, all the kids would come up. Oh, Mr. Wahlberg, can I have your autograph? Oh, Mr. Wahlberg. And I was like, man, these kids don't know who I am. And now because of this horror movie, like a whole new generation of people got familiar. You were in the 7th grade, right? And so a whole new generation of people got familiar with me because of a movie that I wasn't even sure I wanted to do, right? And so, like everyone can act like they have all the answers and they know everything to do, but sometimes you do just got to be lucky.
That's got to be lucky.
Before we let you go, saw you in the Super Bowl commercial, Dunkin' Donuts, which is a Massachusetts staple, not Starbucks, it's Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts. How does that come about? A bunch of Boston legends in there.
That actually is really crazy how it came about. I think it was a Sunday night. Literally, the commercial was filming on Monday and Tuesday. And my agent called and was like, hey, they're doing a Dunkin' Donuts commercial for the Super Bowl, and they just said, you have to approve like the name, your name or something being in the commercial, something like that. Like, can you just say okay? And I said, yeah, sure. And I hung up the phone and I called him back. I said, wait a minute. I was like, ask them if I could be in the commercial. And he said, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And I was like, great. And so literally an hour later, he called me back and said, okay, I called the other agent. He was sitting with Ben Affleck, who's directing the commercial. Ben wants you to come be in the commercial. Can you get on a plane to LA tomorrow? I said, yep. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was happening. It just, from the moment I spoke those words, why can't I get me in the commercial? Once he said, Ben was like, yeah, I would love to have Donnie in this. I was like, I'm going, I don't care what happens. I really didn't care. I was like, I can get there and he can say, he was like, we got Bill Belichick, we got Jeremy Strong, we got Ben, we got Case. I was like, hey, worst case, I'll just go get to talk to Coach Belichick for a little while. And, that's good enough for me to go to LA. But I had no idea what I was going to do. I wasn't in the script. The script was, it was actually a 6-minute movie that they made and they were filming. And then they were going to just take a minute for the Super Bowl. And so I was just so flattered that Ben just said yes, just like that. And I really, that guy's phenomenal director. He's just phenomenal, very underrated. And even in Boston, he's underrated. Like that guy's just incredible. And so he said yes to me coming, and I went. And honestly, I really didn't care. Once I got there, I was like, listen, whatever you need me to do, I'm doing it. If you say the commercial's done, we got nothing for you, I'm good. I'll take a few donuts and I'm out of here. Like, and of course, Ben is directing this massive thing. And he said, here's what I want to do. We're going to have you just come in at the end and just sit down with everyone and hand out coffees. And then I want to do this thing with you. I want to do this thing where we just who started it? Like him and Casey are arguing about who started this whole thing of this coffee boy bands. And, and he said, Donnie, I want you to come in and say, I started it. And so we did that bit. We did a few other bits. And next thing I know, I'm in the Super Bowl part, which I didn't expect to be in because the stuff I filmed was not really going to be part of it. So they put me in there, and then I've been on TV every day since the Super Bowl. And it's really, it was really cool. And it's just, to me, it's that thing of again, it's not just having a goal or a dream or a wish to do something, right? It's we talked about that earlier. It's you can have that, and you have to, you got to do a lot of work to make these things come true. But sometimes just the opportunity comes, and if it just feels right in your heart, sometimes you may not know how it's going to turn out, but you just got to take a chance. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's a lot of power in the word no. Yeah. But there are times when if everything inside you says yes, this is the right thing. That's how I was with the Sixth Sense. It was hell yeah, I'm doing this movie. It was the best script I ever read. I said, I don't care. I told the director, if you want me to mop floors on the set, I'll just come and do that. I just want to be part of this movie. It's so great. And it's how I was when I met Maurice Starr as a little kid. It was hey, do you want to start this band with me? And I was like, hell yeah. Yes, I want to build something special. I want to make my dreams come true. I want to do this. And, and I, I'm a street kid. I come from a big family. I'm not just going to go for any old thing. You know what I mean? I'm not crazy, or gullible, but when your gut tells you something's great, sometimes you just got to go for it. And for me to just have thrown that out there almost jokingly, I didn't think my agent was going to call back and say, yeah, they want you in the commercial. I put it out there, and I wasn't afraid to just give it my best. And, you know, and I mean, hell, if Coach Belichick can act in the commercial, I'm sure I could do okay too.
Yeah, you ain't lying about that.
Right? But it's really a thing. And look, and I don't want to sound like I'm on any pedestal or anything. So forgive me if this sounds in any way condescending, but you guys are building this podcast, you know, and it's like, and I opened up my DMs a week ago and there you guys are saying, hey, you want to come on the podcast? Like, hell yeah. Like, I love that. I love that. I'm honored to be asked. I love the hustle that you guys are willing to ask and put it out there. And I love that, like, here we are talking. It's like you can't accomplish things if you don't put your effort into it. And it's like, and every step of the way in my life, it's been like, you know, I've been blessed and fortunate to find myself. I shouldn't say put myself because he's doing it all, man. I'm just following the instructions.
I want to leave.
God's charge of all of this, man. But he puts me in these positions and, you know, it's like, it's sometimes, it feels like luck. Sometimes it feels like, I just opened my mouth and someone heard me. Or he heard me and said, go, and here it is for you. But like, I do believe, like, if you put things out there and you put your heart out there and you put your energy into it, like, and keep committed to it, whether it's a young person who's trying to become an athlete, you know, yeah, we're not all going to make it successfully. We can't all, there's only so many players in sports. There's only so many people on the stage at the Grammys, right? You have to change course sometimes, but you'll never find out, if you can achieve any of this stuff, if you don't put all of your energy and your spirit into it and speak it and put it out there every day and let people know, like, this is me, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And if you do that, even if you don't make it, you'll never regret trying.
Yep.
Like, we only regret not trying. You know, any regret I have is because I left something on the table that I didn't put my best effort into. I never regret. There's no failure if you try with all you got. It just didn't work out. But you know, never regret trying.
Gotta put your best foot forward. Gotta end on that note. That's a great message to the world for sure. Gotta put yourself out there and gotta put your best foot forward. Maximum effort. If you get what you're chasing, you know, that's great. If you don't, you just learn a lesson. You know, that's for sure. We appreciate you taking the time out to kick it with us. You know, at your busy schedule. Once again, it's a dope episode. A lot of great messages, and we learned a lot as well. So we appreciate you.
We didn't even talk Patriots. I got to do
it. Gotta go back. Gotta get you back.
Part two. We got to talk football. We have Super Bowl weekend. I know it's past, so we can let it go. And I'm gonna sit in my shoe room next time.
Because Wahlberg got some. So I know y'all got some heat.
You guys look like you both got me beat, but I can hang in there a little bit.
I know y'all got some stuff. So Mark definitely next time gotta do a shoe pod too, man.
For sure.
I gotta ask: would you ever lose that much weight again? Like, would you ever do that for another role? Would you ever consider it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I did another movie called Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Where I had to lose a lot of weight. And I hired a dietitian that time. And, it was cool because I looked really sick, but I was still weighing in around 165. I was looking good. I was middleweight.
I'm trying to figure out how you remembered your lines and everything you needed to do with just how that, can mess with your mental.
I was so hungry. Honestly, Bruce Willis was standing in front of me. It was like he was a cheeseburger. Nobody would let me have it. I was just screaming out, "Give me that burger!" That was insane. Yeah, I had to get those lines right because I needed food really bad.
but that's something like someone like me, who's never acted and things like that. It's just you never know what goes into the profession. Like you see everybody's passion and things like that when they're in the role, but you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So to hear that you did that, like in that short of amount of time,
we never do. And look, we never know. I can say it. I don't want to sound all deep, so forgive me, but like we never know what goes into what anyone's doing, right? And that's
fair.
It's why it's why so many people, like, we just look at like an athlete. Like, I went to the Formula One race in Las Vegas, and there's 20 cars in every race and the same 20 drivers every race in a season. And there's this this one team, they got 2 cars and they just always 19th and 20th place. It's just like, and it's so easy to say, man, they stink. They're terrible, right? And I was standing next to that track, and those 2 cars drove by the Las Vegas Strip going 221 miles an hour on a cold street on a November night, and the tires aren't gripping. And it occurred to me, like, those dudes are the 19th and 20th best in the world at what they do.
Yeah.
And we all sit at home and watch them and like, oh, they stink. It's like a guy on the practice team on the Patriots is one of the 500 best football players in the world.
Yeah.
And people sit at home and sit on their social media and are like, that guy, he's a scrub on the practice team and blah, blah, blah.
Abby, killing me.
How hard that guy worked? Do you have any concept of how hard that guy worked? Mm-hmm. Like, to be in these situations, like in any person, right? It's like someone may be the manager of their job and started off like, not know how to do the job. And like, it's like everyday people, like, we don't know anyone's struggle at all. And it's like, it's one of the things. It's like, I'm a sports fan, like a crazy sports fan, everything you would think. But one thing I do and don't do is I don't boo the other team. I don't talk shit about other players or other teams. I support my guys, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Because that's just not the energy for me. Like, I'm there to support, and I can get, mad. I don't want to hear that Mahomes is the GOAT over Brady. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear the Chiefs are better than the Patriots. I don't want to hear any of that. But I also, like, that's not going to make me go like trash the Chiefs. Just harder for the Patriots.
That is the world we live in now. It's either you like the person or you got to say something bad about them. It's like, just root for your team. It's nothing. You got to trash somebody else to uplift, yourself or yourself.
And if it goes bad at your team, just do what I do. Go on YouTube.
Look up the whole highlight.
8-3 Super Bowl. My favorite 3 words. When James White got the pitch over to James White, for Joe Buck said, "And he's in."
Hey, you may not want to do that too much.
500 times. Every time I go watch it again.
Hey, you may not want to do that too much. Sojourn go get PTSD. He a Falcons fan.
Oh man, I'm a Falcon fan. Just hearing it, just bring back some bad memories. But again, best friend went crazy in the Super Bowl, right? So it was. I was kind of on the line, but that was a sad time.
He got in.
He for sure got in. For sure.
He got in.
Man.
Good times, man.
Good times.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I met your brother after that game. I saw him like on the field.
He must have came back because that was the game he left early because he left early and bragged about it.
Hey.
He rushed back. He was like,
he got back in. A lot of people can't get back to the state.
A lot of people
he got back in.
Get back in.
He knows a few people.
That's crazy.
Oh man.
No, that's what's up.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate your time for sure.
That, of course, it was a pleasure, and really, I would be happy to do part 2. And
let's
I look
go.
forward to catching up with you guys soon.